The sky above Virex 9 was a swirling wall of ice and wind. Lieutenant Kyle Mercer gripped the shuttle's seat tightly as it fell through the planet's atmosphere. Sparks flew from the control panel. Warning lights flashed red. The cold was already seeping in. Outside, snow and frozen clouds blurred the view. His ship had been hit by debris from an exploding orbital station. He didn't know if anyone else had survived. All he knew now was that he had to land or crash somewhere. Stabilizers offline, the AI repeated in a cold voice. I noticed, Kyle snapped. He fought the controls, guiding the shuttle toward a flat stretch of ice between two cliffs. It wasn't much, but it was his best chance. The engines screamed, metal groaned, and with a thunderous crash, the shuttle slammed into the ground. Pain woke him up. Kyle lay sideways in the wreckage. Blood trickled down the side of his face. His left leg throbbed. A piece of metal had sliced through his suit. He groaned and looked around. The main hull had cracked open, letting snow blow in. He grabbed his emergency pack, limped outside, and stumbled into the white storm. The wind was cruel. It howled like a monster and pushed him sideways with every step. His eyes barely stayed open. The temperature dropped fast, colder than anything on Earth. Shelter, he whispered. I need shelter. The terrain around him was a frozen wasteland. Rocks and ice. No trees. No caves. Only endless white. Then, as if the planet was mocking him, the storm got worse. The snow thickened. His hands grew numb. His legs felt heavy. Every step was harder than the last. After just a few minutes, he fell to his knees. He didn't have the strength to stand up again. His vision blurred. He knew hypothermia was setting in. He tried to crawl, but his body refused. His breath came out in weak clouds. Everything around him was silent, except the wind. This is it, Kyle thought. I'm going to die on an ice rock in the middle of nowhere. But just before darkness took him, he saw something move through the snow. A figure. Tall. Not human. It walked upright, but it was big, maybe 7 feet tall, covered in thick fur, like some kind of alien bear. Kyle's vision faded. The last thing he felt was a warm hand or claw pressing against his neck. Then everything went black. He woke up in warmth. Not just warm, hot, almost like being next to a fire. He blinked slowly. He was no longer in the snow. He lay on a bed of soft pelts inside a glowing cave. The walls shimmered with blue crystal. Light pulsed gently from the stone. It was quiet here, peaceful. His leg had been wrapped in bandages. His chest was covered with thick fur blankets. Someone had removed his broken armor and cleaned his wounds. He touched his forehead. Someone had even wiped away the blood. Where am I? He muttered. He tried to sit up, and that's when he saw her. The creature from the storm sat near the wall of the cave, sharpening a long, curved bone knife. She was tall, strong, and looked part beast, part human. Her body was covered in thick, silver fur, but her eyes were intelligent and bright, deep orange, almost like firelight. She had long ears, clawed hands, and wore a belt filled with tools, herbs, and old tech scraps. She looked up when she noticed he was awake. They stared at each other for a long moment. Kyle tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Did you save me? The alien tilted her head. Then slowly she nodded. Kyle breathed out. Thank you. She stood up and walked over. She didn't say anything, but gently handed him a steaming cup made from carved bone. It smelled like herbs. Strange, but not bad. He took a sip. Warmth spread through his chest. He looked at her again. Who are you? She tapped her chest with one clawed hand. Vaska. He repeated it. Vaska. I'm Kyle. She didn't respond, but she sat down near him again. Not too close, but not far either. Her presence felt strong, like a protector. Kyle realized something else, the heat in the cave. It wasn't just from the crystals. It was coming from her. Her body gave off warmth like a living heater. That's how he was still alive. She must have kept him from freezing during the storm. Maybe by holding him close. Maybe she had stayed awake the whole time, watching over him. He didn't fully understand her. But one thing was clear. She had risked her life to save his. As the wind howled outside, Kyle leaned back on the soft furs and let himself rest. The danger wasn't over. He was stranded on a frozen planet, injured, and far from help. But now, he wasn't alone. Kyle woke slowly, the soft light of the glowing crystals still wrapping the cave in a gentle blue glow. His head throbbed, but the pain was less than before. His broken leg ached, but felt better than it had. Vaska sat nearby, tending to a small fire she had made from dry branches and strange, glowing plants. He tried to sit up, but the weight of his injuries stopped him. Vaska noticed immediately. She stood and approached, her eyes warm but serious. She spoke, her voice low and calm, though Kyle could only understand a few sounds. "Vaska," he said softly. "Thank you for saving me." She nodded. "Survive. Important." Kyle tried to speak more, but the language barrier was clear. His own voice sounded weak in the cold cave. Vaska crouched beside him, reaching into her belt to pull out a small device. It made a soft humming noise, and a strange blue light spread over his wounds. He felt a cool, tingling sensation, and the pain eased. He nodded in gratitude. Vaska stood again, signaling for him to stay still. She moved to a small pile of animal skins and blankets and pulled out a thick fur cloak. She wrapped it around him carefully, covering him completely. The warmth from the fur pushed away the chill in his bones. Kyle looked around the cave more closely. The walls sparkled with crystals that gave soft light. The air smelled fresh, a mix of cold earth and sweet herbs. There were tools, bones, and strange devices arranged carefully in one corner. This was not just a shelter, it was a home. "Who are you?" Kyle asked quietly, curious despite his exhaustion. Vaska hesitated but then sat down cross-legged. She patted the ground beside her and made a simple gesture of peace, open hands, calm eyes. Slowly she began to speak in short, clear words. "I am Vaska, healer. Tribe lost. Alone now. Find you. Save you." Kyle listened carefully. "Tribe lost?" He nodded. "You mean your people?" She gave a sad smile, her eyes flickering with pain. "Predators kill. Many years ago. I alone survive." Kyle felt a wave of respect. Here was a strong warrior, alone on a dangerous planet, risking everything to help a stranger. "How did you survive the storm? It was terrible out there." He shivered, recalling the frozen wind that almost took him. Vaska shrugged, then pressed a hand to her chest. "Heat, body heat. Keep warm. Keep alive." Kyle's eyes widened. "Your body produces heat?" She nodded again. "Strong heat. Help heal. Help survive." He thought about it. Humans had heaters, warm clothes, fires, but no body heat like hers. This warmth was a gift, something special. It had saved his life. Suddenly, the cave entrance rumbled. Kyle tensed. Vaska stood quickly, her claws flexing. The glow of the crystals brightened. The wind outside howled louder. "Storm." "Worse," she said. Kyle looked outside. The blizzard was returning, stronger and colder than before. Snow whipped through the air like sharp knives. "We must stay," Vaska said firmly. "Outside, no survive." Kyle nodded. His body felt weak, but he understood. This cave was his only hope. Days passed. Kyle's wounds slowly healed. Vaska stayed close, sharing her warmth and guarding him from the cold. She hunted and gathered food from the frozen wastes, bringing strange, glowing plants and frozen meat to the cave. Kyle ate cautiously but gratefully. The food was unlike anything he had ever tasted. Strange but nourishing. Despite the language barrier, the two formed a routine. Vaska taught him simple signs to communicate. Kyle shared his knowledge of human technology, showing her how to use small devices from his pack. Each day, Kyle grew stronger. His leg healed enough for him to walk slowly. His mind cleared and he began to think of rescue, of leaving Virex-9 and returning to human space. But deep inside, he also felt a new bond forming. With Vaska, with this strange world, and with the hope that maybe humans and Thermari could understand each other. One night, the cave was silent except for the crackling fire. Kyle sat beside Vaska, watching her prepare a poultice from crushed herbs and glowing roots. She carefully applied it to his arm, which still ached from the crash. "You, healer," Kyle said, smiling. She grunted softly, pleased. Then Kyle asked the question that had been on his mind. "Why help me? Why risk your life for a stranger?" Vaska looked away, her eyes darkening. "Tribe lost," she said again. "No, one left, alone long time. When see you weak cold pain," she paused. "Remind me, not alone." Kyle's heart tightened. He understood now. Vaska had saved him not just because it was right, but because she needed someone. Someone to share her strength with. Someone to remind her that life was still worth fighting for. He reached out slowly, resting his hand on hers. The fur was soft and warm. Her eyes met his, and for a moment the cave felt less cold. Suddenly a noise shattered the quiet. A sharp growl echoed from outside the cave. Kyle's heart raced. Vaska's posture changed instantly. Her eyes narrowed. She moved toward the entrance, silently, her claws scraping softly on the stone. "Beasts," she whispered. Kyle grabbed a metal rod from the corner. It was a piece of broken shuttle equipment, heavy enough to use as a weapon. The growls grew louder. Outside he could see the shapes of large creatures moving through the storm, low to the ground with glowing eyes and sharp teeth. Vaska turned to Kyle, her voice low but fierce. "Stay here. No leave cave." Kyle nodded, but his mind was racing. He knew he could not survive another night like before. The creatures circled the cave, snarling and scratching at the ice. Vaska stepped outside, tall and proud, a warrior ready to defend her home. Kyle watched, amazed. Despite her size, she moved with speed and power. She fought with bone blades and strange energy weapons, driving the beasts back one by one. The battle was fierce but brief. The creatures finally fled into the storm. Vaska returned, breathing hard but victorious. Kyle stood slowly. "You saved me again." She smiled faintly, then looked at him with steady eyes. "We survive. Together." That night, as the blizzard howled outside, Kyle knew something had changed. Vaska was more than a healer. She was a protector, a friend. And on this frozen world, together, they might just have a chance. The next morning, the storm had not passed. Outside, the sky was a heavy gray blanket, thick with swirling snow and fierce winds. The cold was still biting, and the ice world of Virex-9 showed no sign of mercy. Kyle woke to the faint smell of cooked meat and the warm glow of the cave crystals. Vaska was already up, preparing their meager breakfast. The food was strange but filling. Kyle ate slowly, feeling the strength return to his body. His leg no longer pained him as much. "We must move soon," Kyle said, trying out the few words he had learned from Vaska. "Supplies low." Vaska nodded. She was silent but alert, always watching the entrance of the cave. Her orange eyes were sharp and full of careful thought. Kyle looked outside again. The blizzard was still raging. He shivered at the thought of leaving the safety of the cave. Hours later, the storm slowed, just enough for them to see the frozen world beyond. Kyle tested his leg and found he could stand and walk slowly. Vaska led the way outside, moving with surprising speed and sure steps over the slippery ice. They moved cautiously, but Vaska seemed to know this land well. She stopped often, scanning the horizon, listening for sounds Kyle could not hear. She pointed to distant rock formations, marking their path toward higher ground. Kyle followed closely, feeling the strange bond between them growing. He no longer thought of her as just an alien. She was a guardian and friend, but danger was never far on Virex 9. As they crossed a frozen plain, Kyle heard a soft noise, a growl that made his blood run cold. He stopped and looked around. Beasts, Vasca whispered. Burrow wolves. Kyle's heart pounded. These creatures were the worst predators on this world. Fast, smart, and deadly. He remembered the stories Vasca told about how her tribe had fallen to such beasts. Suddenly, the snow near them shifted. 4 large wolves with glowing blue eyes and sharp teeth stepped into the open. They circled slowly, watching Kyle and Vasca with hungry eyes. Vasca moved in front of Kyle, growling low, ready to fight. Kyle grabbed a metal rod from his pack, gripping it tightly. The wolves attacked quickly, their claws slicing the air. Vasca met them head-on, using her claws and bone knives with fierce power. Kyle swung his metal rod, hitting one beast hard on the side. The battle was fast and brutal. Kyle's strength was growing, but the wolves were strong and many. One nearly bit his leg, but Vasca jumped in, knocking it back with a heavy strike. Kyle realized that fighting alone would be impossible. He needed a plan. As the fight dragged on, Kyle's eyes searched the ground. He spotted broken pieces of his shuttle scattered nearby. Small, sharp metal shards. An idea formed. He grabbed the shards and set a trap, arranging them on the ice where the wolves were chasing him. He hoped the sharp metal would slow or hurt them. Vasca nodded, understanding immediately. They worked together, baiting the wolves toward the trap. When a wolf lunged at Kyle again, he dodged quickly, and the beast stepped onto the metal shards. It yelped in pain and backed away. The other wolves hesitated, then circled warily. Seeing their chance, Vasca charged, slashing and driving the pack back. The wolves howled and fled into the storm. Kyle fell to his knees, breathing hard. Vasca came to his side, licking a small cut on his arm with her warm tongue. "You fight well," she said simply. Kyle smiled weakly. "Only because of you." Vasca looked at him with respect. They stayed close together. The dangers of the world outside suddenly clear and very real. That night, back in the cave, Kyle cleaned his wounds and tended to Vasca's scratches. The fire crackled and the crystals glowed softly. "We cannot stay here much longer," Kyle said. "The storm will return. The beasts will come again." Vasca nodded. "Must find temple. Old tech there. Help us survive." Kyle was curious. "Temple? What kind of temple?" Vasca stood and began to draw in the dirt with a stick. She showed a picture of a tall building with strange symbols and lights. "Thermari Temple," she explained. "Ancient. Lost. Holds power. Maybe signal." Kyle's heart lifted. A chance for rescue, away off this frozen planet. The next day they prepared to leave. Vasca packed her healing herbs and weapons. Kyle checked his emergency supplies. They left the cave and stepped into the cold world once more. The walk was slow and dangerous. The ice was slippery and the wind cut like knives. Vasca led the way, using her knowledge of the land to avoid dangerous areas. Kyle helped by carrying supplies and keeping watch. Along the journey, Kyle learned more about Vasca's people, the Thermari. They were a proud race, strong and wise, with great healing powers and the ability to control their body heat. But their history was full of pain. Their ancient temple, the last hope of their tribe, was lost to time and war. Kyle shared stories about humans, about space travel and distant worlds. Vasca listened, fascinated by this strange visitor from the stars. After days of travel, they reached a high ridge overlooking a frozen valley. Below, half buried in ice and snow, was the ancient Thermari Temple. It was huge and mysterious, covered in strange carvings and faint blue lights. Kyle felt a surge of hope. The temple might hold the technology needed to send a rescue signal, or at least keep them safe. But as they prepared to enter, Vasca's eyes narrowed. Beasts near, she warned. Kyle readied his makeshift weapons. Together, they moved forward, ready to face whatever dangers awaited inside. The temple doors were heavy and cold. Vaska pushed them open with effort. Inside was dark but alive. Glowing symbols and pulsing lights lined the walls. Kyle pulled out a small flashlight and looked around. This place is amazing, he said. Vaska nodded. Old world. Power inside. Help us. They explored deeper, searching for the temple's energy core, the heart of the ancient technology. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the shadows. From the darkness, another group of burrow wolves appeared, their eyes glowing in the dim light. Kyle and Vaska stood back to back, ready to defend themselves. The fight was about to begin again. The low growl echoed inside the dark temple chamber. Kyle and Vaska stood back to back, their eyes fixed on the shadows where the burrow wolves waited. The strange blue light from the temple walls barely touched the darkness around the beasts. Vaska's claws flexed, ready to fight. Kyle gripped his metal rod tightly, prepared to defend himself. The wolves lunged forward with sharp teeth and quick movements. Vaska met them with a fierce roar, her powerful body moving with speed and skill. She slashed at the closest wolf, driving it back. Kyle swung the metal rod, hitting one wolf's side. The battle was fierce but short. The wolves, surprised by the temple's strange energy and the strong fighters, finally retreated into the shadows. Breathing hard, Kyle looked around the chamber. This place, it's more than just a temple, he said. It feels alive. Vaska nodded. She stepped toward a tall pedestal in the center, covered in strange carvings and glowing symbols. Kyle noticed a small device lying on the pedestal. A smooth, round object humming softly with energy. Power source, Kyle guessed. Vaska touched the device carefully. The blue light grew brighter. Suddenly, a holographic image flickered to life above the pedestal. It showed scenes from a distant past, a proud race of Thermari standing with humans, working together in peace. They built great cities and shared knowledge, but then the images changed. The Thermari's faces grew worried. There was a battle, explosions and betrayal. Humans in shining armor attacked their cities. The hologram showed broken friendships and destroyed homes. Kyle watched, stunned. This is history? Vaska's eyes filled with sadness. Yes. Long ago, humans, betrayed, war. Thermari lost. Kyle felt the weight of the story. I am sorry, I did not know. Vaska looked at him with steady eyes. Not you? Time change. Kyle nodded. I want to prove it. The hologram shifted again, showing a map of the galaxy with flashing lights marking different planets. This temple, it holds a signal device, Vaska said. Can call help. Kyle's heart lifted. Then we must activate it. They worked, together, studying the temple's strange technology. Kyle used his knowledge of human machines, trying to understand the symbols and controls. Vaska guided him, explaining what she could with signs and simple words. It was difficult. The temple was old and many systems were damaged, but slowly the energy core began to glow brighter. Kyle connected a small power cell from his emergency pack to the main console. The temple hummed louder, and the holographic map expanded. This is it, Kyle said. The signal is ready. Vaska nodded, but her face was serious. Signal attract predators, be careful. Kyle understood. They would have to defend themselves until rescue arrived. While Kyle worked on the temple's console, Vaska explored the nearby rooms. She found ancient scrolls and artifacts, tools of healing, weapons, and records of the Thermari's past. She paused in front of a large mural. It showed the Thermari fighting side by side with humans, building bridges between their worlds. But the last panel showed a great betrayal, humans attacking their allies. Vaska's eyes darkened. Kyle joined her, looking at the mural. I am sorry for what happened, he said quietly. But my people have changed. We want peace. Vaska looked at him, then placed a hand on his shoulder. We will see, she said. That night, the temple was quiet except for the hum of the energy core. Kyle and Vasca sat together, sharing warmth and thoughts. Kyle broke the silence. Vasca, why did your tribe hide here for so long? She looked away, then said softly, hurt, fear, lost hope. Kyle nodded. I understand. But you saved me. You trusted me. Vasca smiled faintly. You remind me, not alone. Kyle reached out, holding her hand. The warmth of her fur comforted him. Suddenly, a loud noise shook the temple. Kyle jumped up. What was that? Vasca's eyes narrowed. Predators. Close. They ran to the entrance. Outside, the blizzard had returned. Through the swirling snow, Kyle saw large shapes moving. More burrow wolves, but bigger, stronger. The predators were coming. Kyle and Vasca prepared to defend the temple. Kyle checked his weapons, while Vasca readied her bone knives and claws. The predators attacked. With a fierce howl, the battle was brutal. Kyle fought with everything he had, striking with his metal rod and using his quick mind to dodge attacks. Vasca was a whirlwind of strength and speed, protecting Kyle and driving the beasts back. As the fight continued, Kyle saw the temple's energy core pulsing faster. The signal must be working. Then above the storm, a distant light appeared. A rescue ship. Kyle shouted with relief. Help is here! The rescue ship fired beams of energy that scared the predators away. They fled into the storm. Kyle and Vasca watched as the ship landed on the icy plain. Humans in spacesuits stepped out, amazed to see Vasca. Their leader spoke into a translator device saying, We've found our lost explorer and a new friend. Kyle smiled. Vasca saved me. We survived together. The humans nodded, and Vasca looked at Kyle with quiet trust. As they prepared to leave the temple, Kyle looked back once more. The ancient stones glowed softly, holding the memories of a lost people and the hope of new beginnings. He knew this was only the start, a chance for two worlds to come together again. The storm outside had not stopped. The wind whipped against the ancient temple walls like angry ghosts, howling through the frozen plains of Virex 9. Inside, Kyle and Vasca prepared for the final test, the rescue that might finally take them off this cold, harsh world. Kyle checked his equipment one last time. His metal rod was worn but ready. His emergency pack held what little he had left. Beside him, Vasca sharpened her bone knives, her sharp eyes focused and alert. We must be ready, Vasca said, her voice steady but fierce. Beasts come with rescue. Kyle nodded. I know, but we have fought before. Together we can win. The warmth between them was more than body heat now. It was trust, respect, and hope. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the temple floor. Kyle looked up, heart pounding. Outside, through the swirling snow, he saw dozens of glowing eyes moving in the darkness. More burrow wolves, bigger and stronger than any they had faced. Vasca growled low, her muscles tensed like a spring. They come, she said. Kyle gripped his rod tightly. Then let's give them a fight they will never forget. The battle began with a roar. The predators charged in waves, their teeth bared and claws flashing. Vasca moved like lightning, her powerful body striking down the beasts with deadly precision. Her heat filled the air, a burning force against the cold and the danger. Kyle fought alongside her, swinging his rod, dodging, striking with everything he had. The cold was sharp, but his will was sharper. Despite their courage, the beasts were many. They circled the temple, trying to break through. Their defenses, Kyle shouted, Vasca, we need a plan. Vasca's eyes glowed with fierce intelligence. We use the temple, she said. Trap them inside. Quickly, they led the predators toward the temple's inner chamber. Kyle activated traps he and Vasca had prepared, hidden pits covered by ice and old energy fields that flickered to life when triggered. The beasts fell into the traps, snarling and struggling. Vasca used her heat to melt frozen doors, sealing the predators inside. For a moment, silence returned. Kyle and Vasca leaned against the cool stone walls, breathing hard but alive. Then, high above the storm, a distant light appeared. A human rescue ship, its engines glowing bright against the dark sky. Kyle's heart soared. "Help is here," he cried. Vasca stood tall, her fur shining in the firelight. As the rescue ship landed, human figures stepped onto the ice. They looked at Vasca with awe and caution. One of the humans spoke into a translator device. "We found our lost explorer and a new friend." Kyle smiled. "Vasca saved me. We survived together." The human leader nodded. "We will take you both home." Vasca hesitated at the edge of the landing zone. Her eyes scanned the humans, unsure. Kyle stepped forward. "You are safe with them. They are not your enemies." Vasca looked at him, then slowly moved forward. The humans helped them aboard the ship, offering warm clothes and food. Kyle looked back at the temple one last time. The glowing crystals and ancient stones seemed to shine with quiet approval. During the flight back to human space, Kyle and Vasca sat side by side. Kyle studied, her fur, her strong hands, and fierce eyes. "You are incredible," he said softly. "Your heat saved my life." Vasca smiled. "And your courage saved me." They shared stories of their worlds, of humans and Thermari, of war and hope, of survival and friendship. Kyle felt a new respect for this alien healer, and a deep hope for the future. When the ship reached a human outpost, Kyle was greeted with cheers and relief. News spread quickly. Humans had found the lost explorer and his mysterious savior. Scientists and soldiers approached Vasca with curiosity and respect. She stood tall and proud, no longer just a stranger, but a symbol of a new bond between species. Kyle spoke at a press conference later. "This story is about more than survival," he said. "It's about trust, courage, and the power of two very different worlds working together." He looked at Vasca in the crowd. "Vasca showed me the true meaning of strength, not just muscle or power, but heart." The crowd applauded. In the weeks that followed, Kyle and Vasca helped build new bridges between humans and Thermari. Together, they worked to heal old wounds and create a future where both species could thrive. Vasca taught humans about the power of healing and warmth. Kyle shared human technology and ideas. Their friendship became a symbol, proof that even in the coldest places, fire could burn bright. One quiet evening, Kyle and Vasca stood outside, looking at the stars. Kyle smiled and said, "I never thought I would find a friend like you on a frozen world." Vasca's orange eyes sparkled. "Friend?" she agreed. And, under the vast sky, two very different beings shared warmth, hope, and a future filled with possibility.